Hey guys, I'm kicking off a brand new video series where I put the latest AI video tools to the ultimate test. I'm not just testing AI video tools for fun, I'm asking a much more serious question. How far are today's AI video models from actually creating real films? To answer that, I'm running a structured evaluation across 7 core filmmaking capabilities, the same fundamentals that real movies rely on. That includes camera instruction accuracy, character acting, physical interaction, action and fight, vehicle mechanism, scene continuity, sound sync. Now, a quick note on fairness. Let's be honest. AI video generation today is still a probabilistic system. So in every test, each model gets 2 generation attempts per shot. Same prompts, same rules, no cherry picking. In this series, we'll be testing the latest publicly available models from OpenAI's Sora, Google Veo, Kling, Wan, Seedance, Hailuo, and Grok's video model, all evaluated under the same cinematic criteria. In this episode, we're starting with the ultimate stress test, fight scenes. If a model can survive a high-intensity combat sequence, it means the underlying physics and logic are truly there. To keep it objective, I'm ranking every result on a 5-tier scale. S tier, cinema ready. Flawless choreography, perfect physics, no morphing. It's Hollywood level. A tier, solid. It looks and feels like a real fight. High believability with only minor flaws. B tier, average. They're fighting, but it's clunky. The impact is missing, or the physics feel floaty. C tier, the glitch zone. The action is there, but limbs are morphing and the characters are falling apart. It's chaotic. F tier, total meltdown. No fight, no motion, or the video just failed to generate. Let's see how close we really are. To get a definitive answer, I've designed 5 specific combat scenarios. Each one is a trap designed to expose the common failures of temporal consistency and physics in AI. First up, the boxing ring. This is our baseline test for anatomy, weight, and impact. If a model can't make a punch land cleanly here, it's not ready for the big screen. Let's kick things off with our first contender, Veo 3.1.
Round 1.
All right, not bad at all. This is a really solid fight. I love how aggressive the AI made the attackers. It's non-stop, zero defense. As a first fight, it works well. I'd give this one an A. Let's see if the next round can push it even further.
Round 2.
It's actually okay. But bro, what's with all this dust? And then, look at the referee. This guy literally just glitched into reality. Now, to be fair, the punches do land. So I'll be generous and give this fight a soft A. Overall, for Veo 3.1, that's a solid A. A good start. All right, enough of that. Next up, Kling 2.6. A lot of people are calling this the Sora killer. Let's see if it earns the hype.
Round 1.
You won't dodge this! Try me!
This fight's definitely calmer than the last one. There's offense, defense. It even gave itself dialogue. You do get a bit of mouth warping on the boxer, but overall, I'd still call this a soft A.
Round 2.
You're going down this round! Not so fast.
All right, Kling clearly likes to talk more than it likes to fight. Still, clean movement, quick disengages, no major visual breakdowns. I'll give this one a soft A. Overall in the boxing ring, Kling lands at A tier, same as Veo. Next up, Wan 2.6. Let's see what it's got.
Round 1.
Both fighters are evasive masters, lots of movement, but almost no real impact. This round only gets a B grade from me.
Round 2.
Okay, a very peaceful boxing match. Nobody really wants to get hurt. This round is still a B rating. Overall, Wan gets a B. Next up, let's see how Hailuo performs.
Round 1.
To be honest, I'm a bit disappointed. Hailuo often promotes its fight scenes as being really strong. For me, this one sits somewhere between A and B. I'm giving it a B rating this time. Let's move on to the next round.
Round 2.
Okay, it's still a little bit messy and there's some facial distortion. I'd give this fight a B rating. Overall, Halo gets a B in the boxing ring scenario. Now let's bring in the next tool, C-Dance 1.5 Pro.
Round 1.
The vibe just isn't quite right, so I can only give it a B rating. Let's look forward to round 2.
Round 2.
For this one, I can give it an A. Overall, C-Dance 1.5 Pro sits somewhere between A and B, but considering the strong background audio, I'll give it an A rating for now. Next up, let's welcome Grok, the only free AI video tool in this comparison.
Round 1.
Not bad, but for some reason it kind of feels like a slow motion replay, not the normal hitting rhythm. For a free video tool, this is definitely worth an A rank.
Round 2.
Honestly, I'm not sure what to say about the slow motion feel, but I'm still giving it an A, considering it's free. Gotta encourage it a bit. Overall, Grok reaches an A level in the boxing ring performance. As for the last one, Sora 2, it straight up gave me a content violated Sora guidelines message. Come on, this is just a boxing fight. There was nothing extreme. Since I couldn't run it in this round, I have to give Sora 2 an F rating. Okay, that's the final rating for all the AI video tools in the boxing ring scenario. Based on their overall performance, we can say that the current mainstream AI video tools are capable of producing a decent boxing fight scene. What do you think? Does this match your expectations? Keep in mind, this is just the first scenario of testing. Let's move on to the next test and see if the ratings change significantly. The second scenario is melee weapon combat, testing close-range action, physical interaction, and weapon handling. First up, let's bring in our first tool, VO 3.1.
Round 1.
Okay, the Chinese saber suddenly turned into 2 swords and the overall motion became very chaotic. I can only give it a C tier for this round. Let's see if the next round does any better.
Round 2.
It's still a complete mess, so I can only give it a C tier rating. VO clearly has a lot of room for improvement when it comes to weapon combat. Next, let's see how Kling 2.6 performs.
Round 1.
Your technique is impressive, but I will not yield. Every move counts. Watch carefully. Well struck, but not enough.
The familiar meaningless dialogue again.
Every move counts.
It's hard to even call this a fight. I'd give this video a C tier rating.
I will not yield. Every move.
Round 2.
Your defense is weak here. Not so fast. Timing is everything.
I'll just ignore the dialogue. Overall, it lands somewhere between B and C, but I'll still give it a C. That means Kling 2.6 also ends up with a C tier rating in the close-range weapon combat test. Next, let's take a look at how Wan 2.6 performs.
Round 1.
Okay, they're fighting, but it looks more like kids at play. The model is relatively stable, so I'd give it a B tier rating.
Round 2.
Still, the model is too stable, so the range of motion isn't very dynamic. This video remains at a B tier rating. Overall, Wan 2.6 earns a B tier in this round of testing due to its stability. Next, let's see how Hilo 2.3 performs.
Round 1.
Although the fight is very intense, the visuals are far too chaotic, with multiple distortions. I can only give it a C tier rating for this one.
Round 2.
It's still chaotic, which is honestly disappointing, especially since Hailuo often promotes itself as being strong at fight scenes. I can only give this video a C-tier rating. That means Hailuo 2.3 also ends up with a C-tier overall in this round of close-range weapon combat testing. Now let's shift our focus to C-Dance 1.5 Pro.
Round 1.
A bit of a pleasant surprise, despite a small mistake in the middle. This is the best overall performance so far. I'm comfortable giving it a soft A rating.
Round 2.
It's not as good as the last one. This video shows more object inconsistency, but it's still better than the other AI tools, so I can give it a B rating. Overall, C-Dance 1.5 Pro lands somewhere between A and B in this scenario. Since it's the strongest performer so far, I'll reward it with an overall A-tier rating. Next, let's welcome Grok to the stage.
Round 1.
All right, Grok, you win. This is on another level of performance. You added some fun to this round of the competition. Unfortunately, I can still only give you a C-tier rating.
Round 2.
Again, the transformation is very smooth. I really should try you on anime-style fight scenes, but for this round of testing, I can only give you a C-tier. That means Grok also ends up with a C-tier overall in this scenario. Last one, for Sora 2, I believe you guys already know the answers. Unsurprisingly, this test was flat out rejected by Sora 2, so I still have to give it an F-tier rating in this scenario. Look at this rank board. It's clear that close-range weapon combat scenes are still too difficult for current AI video tools. You'd better avoid such scenes or rely on constant prompt adjustments in multiple generation attempts to achieve the results you want. Okay, it's time to move on to the third scenario, multi-person fights. This scenario tests crowd dynamics, coordination, and close quarters action between multiple characters. Let's bring in our first tool, Veo 3.1. And guess what? We've got a new contender for the second most restrictive AI video tool out there. We got to talk about this later. So yeah, this one's an easy F tier. Next, let's take a look at how Kling 2.6 performs.
Round 1.
No one gets past me!
This ends now! You'll never win!
Kling 2.6 still spends most of the time on dialogue, with barely any actual fighting. For now, I'll give it a C-tier rating.
Round 2.
You won't get past me! This ends now! Try and stop me!
Look at the newly introduced character. This is a very clear C-tier performance. Overall, Kling 2.6 receives a C-tier rating in this scenario of testing. Next, let's see whether Wan 2.6 can still maintain enough stability.
Round 1.
It's definitely quite stable, but it feels more like they're playing a multiplayer game than actually fighting. Unfortunately, I can only give it a C-tier rating.
Round 2.
It's still very stable, and even though this can't really be called a good fight, I'll reluctantly give it a B-tier rating. In this scenario of testing, Wan 2.3's stability held up well, earning it a B-tier overall. Next, let's look forward to how Hailuo 2.3 performs.
Round 1.
It looks like a really bad slow-motion replay. Unquestionably a C-tier.
Round 2.
It's extremely intense and very chaotic. The female fighter on the left suddenly turns into a male. Definitely a C-tier. It's clear that Hailuo 2.3 still can't handle multi-person fight scenes. For this round of testing, it can only receive a C-tier rating. Now let's check out C-Dance 1.5 Pro's performance.
Round 1.
It's extremely chaotic. Seedance 1.5 Pro is probably the most creative model so far. But even so, I can only give this video a C tier rating.
Round 2.
If we ignore the model's inconsistencies, this fight actually not bad. I'd give it a B tier rating. Honestly, Seedance does bring a somewhat different experience. Overall, I'd give it a B tier rating. Up next, let's welcome our free tool, Grok.
Round 1.
Actually not bad. Even though the slow motion is a bit off, Grok performs better than many of the paid tools we've seen. I even want to give it an A tier.
Round 2.
This one isn't as good as the last one, but the model's stability is commendable. I'll give this one a B tier. Overall, as a free tool, Grok really exceeded expectations in this scenario. I'm giving it an overall A tier rating, even outperforming all the paid tools. What do you think? And for Sora 2, it's as consistent as ever, firmly holding an F tier rating. That wraps up the overall rankings for AI tools in this multi-person combat scenario. Honestly, judging by the previous videos, it's best to avoid multi-character fight scenes for now and give AI a bit more time to improve. Next up, we're moving on to the anime-style action scenario. This scenario focuses on dynamic, exaggerated movements and clear character interaction typical of Japanese anime fight scenes. Let's bring in our first tool, Veo 3.1.
Round 1.
Overall, the fight scene is barely acceptable. Veo added some anime-style fight effects into the scene. I'd give it a B tier rating.
Round 2.
It feels a bit underwhelming, somewhere between A and B, but thanks to the effects, I'll give it an A tier rating. Overall, mainly because of the effects, I'll reluctantly give Veo 3.1 a soft A tier rating. Next, let's take a look at how Kling 2.6 performs.
Round 1.
Take this! You won't get away with this.
We really need to turn off Kling's audio if we don't want the characters saying a single word. I'll give this video a C tier rating.
Round 2.
Take this! You won't get away that easy.
Same as the last one, a solid C tier. In this scenario, Kling 2.6 still shows no real highlights, so it only gets a C rating. Not sure if turning off the audio would help it perform any better. Next, let's see whether Wan 2.6 can still maintain enough stability. Okay, it's still very stable, but the fight is just too boring. I can only give it a B rating.
Round 2.
Wan is probably the most stable and also the most boring model so far. This video only deserves a B tier. Overall, Wan 2.6 gets a B tier rating. It's simply the model with the least surprises. Next, let's look forward to how Hailuo 2.3 performs.
Round 1.
Wow, I get it now. When Hailuo claims it's the best fight model, what it really means is the best anime-style fight model. This fight sequence is genuinely impressive. I'm giving it the first S-tier rating so far.
Round 2.
Still amazing. Hailuo 2.3 delivers an incredibly stable and high-quality performance in anime-style action. Another S-tier video. Congratulations to Hailuo 2.3 for taking the first overall S-tier rating so far. Honestly, after sitting through so many dull clips earlier, this one really stands out. Now let's check out Seedance 1.5 Pro's performance.
Round 1.
The Seedance model is also quite distinctive, very lively and dynamic. I'd give this video an A-tier rating.
Round 2.
This video lands somewhere between A and B, but I'll give it an A. In anime-style action scenario, C-Dance 1.5 Pro reaches an A-tier overall rating. Up next, let's welcome our free tool, Grok.
Round 1.
This fight is a bit boring. I can only give it a B-tier rating.
Round 2.
The vibe still isn't quite right, so I'll keep a B-tier rating for this one. That means Grok's overall performance in this scenario lands at B-tier, slightly below expectations. For Sora 2, even in an anime-style fight scene, it still refused to generate. It's playing too safe here, so I can only give it another F-tier rating. This ranking board brings quite a surprise. We finally have an S-tier performance from Hyluo 2.3. That's great news for anyone watching who wants to use AI to create anime-style content. Finally, we've reached the last scenario, Dynamic Environment Combat. This scenario focuses on fights in changing environments, while keeping the combat clear and engaging. Let's bring in our first tool, Veo 3.1. Once again, Veo 3.1 rejected our request. I can only give it an F-tier rating. If you're looking to create fight scenes, you really need to avoid Veo and Sora. Next, let's take a look at how Kling 2.6 performs.
Round 1.
You won't take me down! We'll see about that.
That punch definitely hurt. Kling still focuses more on the story than the action itself. So for this round, I can only give it a C-tier rating.
Round 2.
You won't get away this time! We'll see about that.
If this weren't a fight test, this clip would actually be pretty good. I'll give it a B-tier rating. Overall, I'll give Kling 2.6 a B-tier rating in this scenario. For future tests that don't need dialogue, we really need to turn off the audio option. Next, let's see whether Wan 2.6 can still maintain enough stability.
Round 1.
This model is too stable that even the trains stop moving. I have to place this video in the C tier.
Round 2.
It's better than the last one, but still very boring. At best, I'd call this a B tier. Wan's performance in this round can only earn a B tier rating. It's truly the most stable and also the least action-packed model so far. Next, let's see if Hyluo can bring us a little surprise.
Round 1.
The scene is extremely chaotic. This is a clear C-tier rating. They seem to have spent most of their effort tackling the anime style.
Round 2.
Obviously, this video is also C-tier. The scene is extremely unstable, so Hyluo's performance in this round stays at C-tier. It's really not ready for this kind of scenario. Now let's check out C-Dance 1.5 Pro's performance. This scene really pops with energy and clarity. I'd call it A tier.
Round 2.
Wow, I love that final punch. The strikes hit with real impact. Definitely A tier. Overall, this scene delivers top-tier action and even some surprises. A solid A tier performance. Up next, let's welcome our free tool, Grok.
Round 1.
The fall from the trailer looks awkward and unconvincing. I'd give it a C tier.
Round 2.
The back-and-forth grappling in this sequence is actually not bad. It deserves an A tier rating. Grok shows a noticeable gap between its two videos in this scenario. So overall, I'll give it a B tier rating. At last, Sora 2 once again refused to generate the scene. No surprises there, so it gets an F tier rating. Somewhat surprisingly, Seedance 1.5 Pro actually takes the top spot in the dynamic combat scenario. All right, with that, it's time for the final awards and wrap-up. The most average award goes to Veo 3.1. In this episode, Veo didn't really stand out in any particular way. No big failures, but no memorable moments either. It also remains one of the most heavily restricted video models, probably second only to Sora for fight scene generation. Overall, if you're trying to generate a fight scene, Veo is usually not the right choice. The Chatterbox Award goes to Kling 2.6. In this video, it didn't really show any impressive action skills. It seems like as long as Kling detects a character on screen, it automatically assumes they have to speak. For future tests where the characters don't need to talk, I'll make sure to turn off Kling 2.6's audio. Next, the Boringly Reliable Award goes to 2.6. I have to admit, this model is incredibly stable. But because of that, the action is always too restrained. The fight scenes it generates are honestly a bit snooze-worthy. This is definitely not the model you want to use if you're looking to create exciting combat sequences. Next, the Best Free Tool Award goes to Grok. While Grok's performance isn't exactly flashy, its videos are still pretty fun to watch. At the moment, there's no better free tool available. I mean, what more could you ask for? The Most Dynamic Award goes to Seedance 1.5 Pro. This model shows smooth and lively action, with moves that feel clear and readable. The fight scenes are engaging without being over the top. Overall, Seedance 1.5 Pro delivers a solid, dynamic performance in this test. The Nobel Peace Prize goes to Sora 2. Honestly, this one's a bit ironic. Sora plays it way too safe. It refuses all the action scenes we throw at it, keeping everything calm and peaceful. Maybe a little too peaceful. If you're looking for wild fight sequences, don't expect Sora to deliver. But hey, at least it's consistent. Peace is guaranteed. The Best Anime Fight Award goes to Hyluo 2.3. This model delivers smooth, exciting, and stable fight scenes that really capture the energy of anime-style action. If you're thinking about creating any kind of AI animation, Hyluo 2.3 is definitely worth giving a try. It's the perfect tool to bring your anime action scenes to life. And that wraps up all the awards for this episode. But what about you? Did the results of this test match your expectations? Which AI video tool surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Next up, we'll be testing these same AI video tools on camera instruction accuracy, how well they handle framing, angles, and camera movement. You definitely won't want to miss it. If you got any value out of this today, smash that like button, leave a comment for the algorithm, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next wave of AI tech. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.